Hi, my name is Jamie, and this video is about astral projection, lucid dreaming, dreams, and out-of-body experiences. And for today's video, I wanted to share a recent projection experience that I had. That is one for the books, in my opinion, and I'm grateful to be able to share it with you. So what had happened is that on Father's Day, I laid down for a nap. And I was very aware of the fact that I was leaving my children with my husband on Father's Day. And that is somewhat important because it kind of kept me in the waking state a bit. And I'll explain more as I go. So I laid down, and it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I had it in the back of my mind to, of course, try to get into a state. And what happened was I did. I am one of those ones, and I know Mike from Phase Evolution talks a lot about this, and I know a lot of us have this experience where I can see the room very clearly, even though my eyes are closed at a certain point. So I can see the room through my eyelids, and that happened. I was very aware that my eyes were closed, but I could see my room very clearly. And so I knew that I was in an in-between state. So I took a deep breath and I said, take me to a location, take me to a location. And in this whole experience, I put a lot of effort into my declarations. And I believe that is one of the biggest takeaways I can give for all of what occurred. I said, take me to a location, take me to a location. And I said it really loud and really strong. And all of a sudden I felt the vibrations. I felt the vibrations so strong, so powerful. I've had vibrations in the past that I could very easily describe as a jet engine in the room. And I know a lot of people have had that experience. This was not a jet engine, but there was no mistaking that I was feeling very powerful vibrations. And they were more circular and flowing, and I can only say that they felt more like I was kind of phasing in and out. There was kind of a sense of kind of this feeling to it. And very quickly, I tried to stay calm, and I was in a room. And I woke up in a room, and I started floating in this room. And I floated into the living room, and I'm looking around, and I see it's the house that I grew up in. And my mom is sitting at the counter with her then boyfriend when I was younger. And they see me, they spotted me, and they said, what are you doing? At this point, I realized, I believed at this point that I started in that bed and that I was having kind of a floating around out-of-body dream. I didn't acknowledge them really. I simply decided that this isn't where I wanted to be. And so I tried again. I closed my eyes and I said, take me to a location, take me to a location. At this point I was floating, and I floated through the ceiling, and I could feel all the little nuances of the ceiling, and I floated through the ceiling, and now I'm floating in the sky, and I'm saying, take me to a location, but nothing happened. I realized that I needed to be more specific. And so I said, take me to Disneyworld. And once I got that idea in my head, take me to Disneyworld, I ran with it. I said, I was screaming at one point, take me to Disneyworld, take me to Disneyworld, really, really powerfully. And I started to feel the vibrations again. And through my eyes, I could see colors going by wherever I was. I assume in the astrals. And so I actually said out loud, I'm really sorry for screaming in your realm. I'm just trying to work on something. And I'm screaming, take me to Disney World. And I woke up in a bed again. This time it was in a loft. And I woke up and I sat up, and everything felt much more real at this point. So I go over to the loft. In the loft there's a window, a big pane glass window, and I look down and I can see Disney World, not as you would, it was tweaked here and there, I jumped through the window and went down, and I saw on one side was Disneyworld, and I saw rides that I sort of would recognize, and then on the other side there was a casino, and I thought, okay, and I took that in, and then on the other side there was a kind of a daycare place for small children. And because I didn't have a whole lot of my own personal work that I was planning to do in this experience, I really took my time and I felt like walls. I put my hands on walls, and boy, was it real. I could feel the texture of the wall. I even, at one point, thought about licking the wall. I think it's Mike from Phase Evolution that talks about that, but I did not. But what I did do is start bouncing on these kind of cushions, and I jumped over one another, and I had somebody yell at me, "Hey, don't do that in here." At this point, I became aware of the fact that I had been gone for a while, and I realized that it was Father's Day, and I was making my husband watch the kids. So I decided to exit, and I opened my eyes in my bedroom, and I sat up, and my eyes are open in my bedroom, and I'm convinced that I'm awake. And all of a sudden, I saw this sort of energy all around the room. I could hear my children downstairs, and this energy was building in the room. And I realized that I could control it. And so I really focused my mind, and I brought all this energy in. Somehow, intuitively, I knew how to do this. And all this energy came in, and I really kept it going, and it started to shake all this stuff, and all of a sudden I can only explain it as like this portal in the middle of the room split open, and the whole scene inside had like a three-dimensional effect to it, everything inside this portal. And it was a room, and there was 3 people staring at me. And I think the other thing to share with people is this idea of when things feel outside yourself, because there's just a sense of, you've encountered dream characters. I've encountered dream characters, I've encountered guides, I've encountered all sorts of things in the dreamscape and all sorts of places. And there's just such a huge distinction when you are face to face with things that are very outside of yourself. Things that just have come into this space and you didn't manifest, and you know that they're not a part of you. They probably are. But so these people are staring at me, and they're not smiling. It's a woman in the front, in the forefront, and she is completely naked, except for the fact that she's wearing gloves. And behind her are 2 people that I never really got a gist of. I could see them. They were looking at me too. All 3 of them were looking directly at me. And she reaches her hand out, wanting me to take her hand. At this point, the emotional charge of the situation was really off the charts. I've described other emotions that I've felt during these experiences. This one was new. It wasn't that extreme love feeling, but it was really it was a good sensation. It was more of an intensity, a really, really strong intensity. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She gave me a couple knowing looks, and I reached my hand out to touch hers, and the experience was so strong that I just came back to waking life in my bed. And my heart was coming out of my chest. I mean, I was so overwhelmed about what had just taken place. So that is the experience that I wanted to share, and I just have 2 takeaways for that. The biggest one I really am starting to remember about is this idea about not giving up. And I don't mean not giving up, practicing every day and how hard it is. Trust me, I understand the setbacks and I understand how hard it is and how you feel like a failure some days. But I mean, not giving up once you're in there. I am sort of proud of myself for, sticking with it and getting to a certain state and realizing, I wanted to be in a different state, and just always using that state of mind to maybe push yourself a little further. For me, that was a huge takeaway that I will definitely stick with, because I could have easily seen the energy in the room, realized it was a dream, and not done anything with it, and I didn't. Instead, I used it, and I tried to really push through and have another experience, even though it was time to wake up. The other one that I want to just kind of say again is this idea of it being something outside of yourself. So I have had so many dream time experiences and so many projection type experiences and so many out-of-body experiences. And, I think that all of us are always in these circles, are always talking about how things are either real or they're not real, and we all want to go to the places that are real. We want to have the real experiences. And the more I think about it, I mean, I've always really thought that this is more of a spectrum of experiences, and I think that is the case, but there is still a hierarchy in there, which I don't think is necessarily good. But real and not real, I'm not quite sure are ideas that make sense in these realms. There's more of a sense of things coming from you or things coming from outside of you. To me, that breakdown is a little bit more clear, a little bit more descriptive. I've had so many times that I've had experiences where I know for a fact all of it was me. It's tempting to think about some of the things and think that they are not from me, but they are, and you wake up and you kind of can see how all these things are from you, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a wonderful place to be. There's so much learning and growth, and there really is no value on either one. But the thing is that there's also things, in my opinion, that are just completely outside of yourself. These three people that were staring at me were completely outside of me, looking right at me, engaging me. There's been a lot of times where not a lot of times, let me rephrase. There's been probably a small handful of times that I've been places that have been completely outside of me. And I guess that's all that I really need to say about that. So this distinction of real and not real is tricky. And I certainly understand everybody's work and frustration and setbacks, and I just am so grateful to have this channel to express all of these things and to share with others what I'm doing and going through. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you later.